Hello, welcome to another STEM story. Today we're speaking to Arthur Moore. Thank you very much, Arthur, who I've known for a few years now, and works in a similar field to me as a maths fan, which is great because I don't speak to many maths fans in my daily job. So it's always nice to find somebody who's enthusiastic about maths.
Yeah, I assume today we're just talking about Pythagoras and trigonometry. Hopefully,
Yeah,
a deep dive into SOHCAHTOA is the
no,
dream.
watch everybody just press stop on the. Nobody's listening anymore. No, probably not so much that. Actually, I was talking about something like this earlier today. Like when you're marketing, is it sensible or not sensible to talk about what you actually talk about in your lessons? So I feel like if I posted a bunch of maths content, nobody would pay attention to this.
As we'll talk, I love a bit of math, so I'm all about posting the maths content, all about posting it.
Yeah. Can you tell us about today's Arthur? What is it that you do, and what does your role involve?
Oh, sure. I like today's Arthur. Today's Arthur, which is a nice way of putting it. So my main day to day, Georgina, is being a maths tutor. So I tutor secondary aged students, mathematics. I also work with tutors across the UK and internationally, supporting them support their students. So about what we call pedagogy, which is how we are learning. So working with tutors about that. I also love a podcast, as we know, Georgina. So I do run a couple of my own, and that's kind of work today, Arthur. Away from work, just hanging out with the family and going for runs. I've just been for a run, Georgina, so I'm all buzzing, ready to go for this chat.
Oh my goodness. Super motivated. I love it. You're building your own rock band at home, aren't you?
Always building a rock band. The kids are getting a decent taste in music because I'm forcing them to have a decent taste in music.
I love it.
Although I do know the whole of the Encanto soundtrack without having, I've never watched it, but I know it off by heart. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
I got a fair
I,
amount of it from Julia Silver. That's as much as I've got. No children in this house. I love it. And you did not, as you did not mention, one of the podcast sponsors is your project, Navigated.
of
Thanks.
course, yes. So Navigator Tutor is where I work with tutors and international educators to help us all kind of think about how we teach and how students listening to this learn, and how we can be a bit more smart about how we learn things.
Exactly. Obviously, the student's not supposed to see behind the curtain and see how cunning we're being, so we won't reveal any of our secrets today. Thanks very much. What was it that led you into teaching maths in the first place?
So I really like maths at school, Georgina. I am that person. I absolutely loved maths. Did maths and further maths at A level, which I'm sure some of your listeners will be like, oh yeah, I did that, or I'm doing that, or I want to do that. And I really enjoyed the absolute abstractness of mathematics.
Hmm.
So I'm sure a lot of your listeners will you kind of alluded to this. Oh, I don't like maths because of X, Y, Z. And
Hmm.
one of those reasons we don't like maths is because it's quite an abstract idea. I really like that abstract idea of being like, well, there's a problem, and it doesn't matter what the problem is.
Hmm.
Let's see if I can solve it. And maths are one of the tools. So
Hmm.
that's how I always enjoyed maths. Then at university, I didn't do a maths degree for those who were wondering.
Hmm.
I did something called management and strategy, Georgina. Very,
Sounds interesting.
very, yeah, management and strategy. So not very STEM. So we won't talk about that much. But part of that, I went and worked for Microsoft for a year. And I did my year at Microsoft, this big multinational organization, huge corporate company, and just decided it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And then when I was back at university in my final year, someone came and gave a talk about teaching, and I kind of was like, let's give that a go. And one thing I'll hopefully talk about later on in the pod is just the opportunities that kind of having a love for maths and teaching has kind of allowed me to do on a personal and professional level.
Yeah. This is coming out quite a lot, and the people that I'm speaking to is that what seems like having to lay out quite a firm plan when you're at school and people are asking you to make choices about your subjects and further studies is never really that in reality because everybody's just had opportunities present themselves that they never expected. And usually it works out because they've chosen to follow what they enjoyed rather than what looked like it was going to open up opportunities for them.
Yeah, whenever I talk to students at A level and they're like, "Oh, I think I should do this because I want to study it." What do you want to study? And then we'll go from there. But what's your passion, what do you enjoy, and what do you enjoy being good at, and kind of go from there. Don't If you just do physics because everyone's told you to do physics, you're not going to enjoy it, and that's gonna come out in a whole variety of ways.
Yeah. I mean, definitely encourage studying physics, but if you hate it, frustratingly, like when I hear people describe, as you've described, studying maths and further maths, I get serious envy because now I absolutely love it. But when I was at school, I very, very clearly remember walking into the room when we had our A-level options day, and the maths teacher had put up on the wall all of the things that would be covered at A-level maths. And I basically just turned around and left the room and thought, that looks terrifying. No, thank you.
Interesting, Georgina. I actually didn't initially put myself down to do further maths. I went to do my the day at the sixth form that I was going to. I was moving schools, and I was in their like maths A level trial lesson, and
Hmm.
the teacher came me back at the end and went, "Have you thought about doing further maths? I really think you should think about it.
Oh,
Here's what we do." So someone sold that to me. So kind of the reverse of you. I have that person to thank for kind of
hmm.
bringing me into that world.
Oh, that's lovely. I mean, that might well be why I studied biology because I had much the same thing for
Yeah.
biology. I think it's helpful to have, I mean, we get to do this in our jobs, but it's really helpful for students to have somebody that sees potential in them and shares that with them because it's very difficult to have that belief in ourselves sometimes.
No, someone's got to back you sometimes.
Exactly. So is there anything that you would actually you've kind of flagged something that I'm curious about, but I might be putting you on the spot a little bit talking about further maths because I've had some, just a challenge. Some students have talked about potentially having an interest in further maths, but it's not always offered at their school or like it's not taught because there's not enough interest or they're not able to sit the exam, so they have to do it privately. Is that something you've seen in your work as well?
So the problem and the beauty of further maths is it is incredibly difficult. Like what I don't think is fair is when we like everyone can do further maths straight away. Like absolutely, like, further maths is really difficult.
Mm,
And because I would like personally, I think you need to have got a 9 at GCSE and probably to have done a bit of further maths at GCSE as well,
mm,
just to be able to make A level maths. And a lot of schools will disagree with me on that, and a lot of teachers might disagree with me on that. Um, that kind of narrows down the amount of people, and then it's not offered, and because it's not offered, it's a really hard thing to study independently. It's a very like I wouldn't say further maths is one of the ones where you can pick up a textbook and kind of learn from it yourself. Like it's not one of those subjects. I would argue, like a lot of A level subjects. So
mm,
I think further maths is something that if you're really passionate about doing it, then you might need to like go and talk to your head of maths, go
mm,
and talk to your head of year, like and say like this is really what I want to do. Is the school able to offer it?
mm,
And there's another aspect to it, Georgina, of like teaching it's really difficult. Teaching it is really difficult. So like I did further maths. I have worked in education with maths for over a decade. I don't tutor further maths. I don't
mm.
teach further maths
Okay.
because it's incredibly difficult. And because so we've got less teachers who can teach it, so we've got less students who do it, and then kind of that cycle continues, unfortunately. But it's a brilliant, brilliant course, especially if you want to go and do kind of maths a maths degree or something like that. Says the person who didn't do a maths degree.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Everything comes with options. I think the other end of the scale is when people have the option to choose functional skills and don't know that they have that option and suffer through a GCSE that is something that they're never going to use again. And
I love functional skills maths. Like I think it needs to be we need to talk about it more. We need to see it more as an alternative for GCSE. Like it's a really good course, and the different layers of it, like one, two, three, means like you can find the right qualification for you, for your students, for whoever. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that course. Like it's like the day we're recording, like it's resit day for year 12s who would resit their maths GCSE. Like wouldn't it be great if like there was another option to do something like functional maths or kind of take a different route towards maths? Because like just doing GCSE then A level maths then a degree in maths, like of course that's not for every student, as it shouldn't be. Like we're all individuals, aren't we?
yeah, much as it pains me when people say I've got no interest in science after we've finished these exams, I completely understand that it's not for everybody. Perfect. Okay, sorry, I led you off tangent with a few of my own questions there, but I think it's really helpful for students to see the options that they have, because it's not always, it is exactly as you say, it's pretty much publicised as this is the path that you study maths down, and it's not quite that simple. It's much more interesting than that.
Yeah, you're your own person. So there are loads of other options, and a lot of them are really good ones, really good ones.
Um, is there anything you think if you went back to 14-year-old Arthur making those choices, is there anything that you might change if you did it again?
14-year-old Arthur, so making his GCSE choices.
Yeah.
So let's go. What did I do at GCSE, Georgina? I did maths and statistics. Yeah.
Oh,
Um, I did history, loved history. I did drama, absolutely loved drama. My second favorite GCSE after maths. And then I also did German. And I did German because at that time, and probably still, like, we were told we should be learning a foreign language, which is absolutely true. I'd never studied German before.
oh wow.
Yeah,
What did
so
you do?
which is it's a really common thing. So I went into year 10 to study a new language that I had never studied before to do at GCSE. And if I went back, I wouldn't do that. I'd go back and do something else that I really enjoyed rather than thinking about, oh, I should have a language on my GCSE.
Yeah.
Like I was never going to kind of go down that path. So I think it's always important, like drama. Most people have told me not to do drama. Oh, you should be going doing maths degree, blah 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 blah. Don't do drama. I really like drama. I learned a lot through it, and I learned a lot that I still use kind of in my day-to-day life. So, like, I I wouldn't worry about closing doors when you're making your GCSE options. Like, if you are interested in something, go learn about it.
Yeah.
And that could be anything like go do photography, go do psychology, go do business, like go do something that you really enjoy or you are curious about. Because if you're curious about something, you'll enjoy learning about it. And if you enjoy learning, loads of other things come from this.
Yeah.
Like when we work with young people, I'm not worried about how good their maths is. I'm worried about their kind of philosophy towards learning, what are their thoughts towards learning. And I think that's where STEM really comes in because it encompasses so much of just enjoying the process of learning and doing and solving problems.
Mm.
And I think that's something as kind of STEM people involved in that world just need to keep shouting about. Like STEM is fun. STEM is really good fun.
I'm glad you said that. I mean, I say that all the time, but I'll probably start to fall on deaf ears a bit. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. There's always more options with things that you enjoy because it's never, even the stuff that you love to do and that you're really motivated by, it's not easy every step of the day, every step of the way. And if it's not something that you enjoy either, why would you keep putting in the hard work? Completely lose
Yeah.
motivation.
And go and seek advice, talk to your parents, talk to your uncles, aunties, talk to your guardians, whatever.
Mm.
But also like sit down and have a real honest conversation with yourself and go like what do I enjoy? What do I really enjoy learning? And let's go and do some more of that.
Mm. It's quite helpful to ask what things do you recognize me for? That was something I had to do in some personal development thing at work one year. And when I asked the question, I thought the answers were going to be obvious, but it was quite surprising what people came back with. Not really, I wouldn't even have thought that I was good at that. Isn't everybody good at that? No one knows their own skills, especially not 14-year-olds, bless them. So I'm quite interested in the fact that you clearly had this interest in maths quite early because you were choosing extra maths at every opportunity until university. Had you just had enough of it by then?
So I remember walking to school in like primary school and doing my like square numbers with my dad in like year one or two and doing prime numbers. And I say this as someone, Georgina, who walks his son to school and does exactly the same.
Oh.
We were talking about prime numbers the other day because I think they're really interesting prime numbers.
Hmm.
And if we explain it in the right way, my 5-year-old completely gets prime numbers as an idea.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to talk about them. So like I always that's why I always enjoyed mathematics and kind of um also like I think as a kid you enjoy doing stuff that you're good at as well. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Like at third maths, I think I just got to the stage where I was like, I really like the abstractness of it, but I've got to the stage where I think I've just hit my thing where I love this subject, but I can't keep it. I remember there being some bits of further maths where I was like,
Mm.
I it's not I can't do it. It's just I don't even understand where this is going.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why I think I took a step back. And I always enjoy kind of solving problems, but it was going down more of just like the real abstract maths. Like we're really talking about abstract maths here, like what is addition and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of where my step back, and I enjoy solving problem going out there. So that's I think that's kind of where I took that kind of detour maybe.
Yeah.
But if you talk about what I still love learning about now, like it always comes back to these the same ideas of using these kind of big bits of knowledge like maths and science and technology and engineering and kind of seeing where they go.
Yeah. Ah, that makes a lot of sense because I guess that same analytical brain is what you needed for the course that you chose. So completely makes sense that you would. There was someone else that I was talking to who is now a biomedical engineering lecturer, and she said she really enjoys maths because without having to memorize large numbers of facts, you can apply what you know to almost any scenario. And it is essentially what how can I use what I know to solve this problem? What can I do with this information so that it's useful to me? You can apply it everywhere. So definitely it's useful beyond maths.
And the other thing I love about it, Georgina, is like I've taught internationally, so I taught in Thailand for 4 years, and I used to teach in classrooms where we would have maybe ten languages going on. There was something like 40 nationalities at the school, so a really diverse kind of cultural background. And some of the students who joined us didn't speak a word of English, and really struggled, obviously, with all the subjects that kind of had English. And then they'd come into our classrooms in our maths rooms and didn't speak a word of English. I didn't speak a word of Mandarin, and we could have a really successful lesson. And we could connect over the language of maths. And that's one thing I love about maths. Like I could go into so many parts of the world and write down some math stuff, and that would work. It's
Mm.
one thing that really does connect all of humanity. Even the people who will say they don't like maths, it will connect you in some way to someone else. And I think that's really powerful.
Mhm.
Like if you go across the world and you think about science, does that connect us? Absolutely, because of all the biology that's going on. Does technology connect us? Well, absolutely. Like, does engineering connect you in some way where you go every part of the world? Yes, it does. And behind all those things, I would argue, is mathematics. And I think that's a really cool idea to be like, I'm not just going to study something that allows me to talk to two or three people or communicate something like that. I'm going to learn something that I can go literally anywhere and I will have a connection with someone or the space around me. I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I mean it's literally what when things get sent into space and with the hope of it landing on some alien planet and communicating with extraterrestrials, there's maths on there because that's what we know, whichever kind of organism they are. If they are an intelligent life, they're going to be able to work out what that means. We can communicate with them about the type of organism that we are. It is not only international, it's intergalactic.
It's universal. It's the universal language. Um, like if you believe in a god or a higher power, I bet they're really good at maths.
I love it. We've uncovered it. God is actually Pythagoras.
Yeah,
Problem solved.
God is a mathematician.
I mean, crikey, I can't really top that. I'm going to completely change the subject. So if we're talking about somebody that was potentially in considering studying maths a bit further, than obviously it's for quite a lot of the time here at school, it's compulsory. But you have options, obviously. Even if it's GCSE maths, which one you go for. What kind of advice would you give to somebody to kind of work out whether maths is the subject for them?
So I'd be asking myself on a really fundamental, do I like learning new things about maths?
Mhm.
Because if you go and study, like we're all studying GCSE, but let's say you're thinking about doing maths A level. So the most popular A level, and it's most popular A level for a reason because of all the kinds of things we spoke about. So if you then go to university and say, I want to study history, oh, you've got A level in maths. That's useful for this. If like I can't think of a subject, there's no subject where someone is going to think maths is not beneficial for that. And that brings us back to like if you want to study A level maths. And A level maths, as you know, Georgina, people listen, we're like, it's a really difficult subject
Mhm.
because of the way maths is. It's not, it's all built on prior knowledge. Like you very rarely learn something in maths that is completely unconnected to anything else. And I would argue that's maybe true for uh, some non-STEM subjects. So my partner's an English teacher, and we often have this discussion. But like, if you really struggle with kind of poetry, that doesn't necessarily mean you're really going to kind of with your own creative writing.
Mm.
Like, obviously, there's links between the two, but there's also kind of a bit of siloed knowledge there. Whereas maths, it'd be really weird for you to be like, I really struggle with SOHCAHTOA, and then someone to teach you sine and cosine rule, and you'd be like, oh, I completely get this, completely. This is easy. And like, maths is always building on things. So you're always learning something new.
Mhm.
And I think if you ask yourself in maths, do you enjoy that process of learning something new? Do you like the challenging of it? Then maths A level is a good thing for you to consider. But also ask yourself, do you enjoy kind of the practice behind it? Because maths A level, like, even if you are good at maths, you've got your 9, you didn't have to work really hard at GCSE. And I know those people out there. That does not mean you're going to sail through A level maths. I see this all the time. I'm sure you do, Georgina. Someone goes, oh, I got an 8 in maths, didn't have to try too hard. I'll do maths A level, it'll be easy. And they kind of go in with that same laissez faire attitude.
Mhm.
And then within 3 months, they're like, I have no idea what's going on. So if you're thinking of doing maths A level, do you like maths? Do you like learning new maths? But also, are you willing to kind of do the graft behind it? And I enjoy the graft behind it. I enjoy kind of that process. Like I teach A level maths. I've still got below me my workbooks, and I will work through all the questions before I do my students.
Mm.
Um, so I think it's important to have a real honest conversation self with maths, because the problem with maths, if you decide you're not really keen, and you're like, I'm not going to reconcentrate for 1, 2, 3 lessons, or this week I can't be bothered to do any independent work, and you come back to it a week later, you're gone because you've missed that kind of that next level up building, and it's really hard to skip levels. And it's
Mm.
not like your teacher's going to go, right, we finished that bit, right, don't worry, because nothing else is related to that in maths. Doesn't happen. It's all related, it's all interconnected. It's the beauty of maths. So as long as you're kind of happy with those points, I would definitely start thinking about kind of maths going forward. And if you're really interested in thinking about like a maths degree and stuff like that, go and get experience of like going to university, go to the open days and go and talk to the maths professors. What's it going to be like? What's linked to us? Someone in your network, someone, a friend of a friend of a friend's cousin's dog walker's friend's mate who plays football will have done something like a maths or engineering degree. Go and find those people and talk to them. And you'd be amazed. Like, if you're listening to this in your early GCSEs and you're like, oh, no one's going to want to talk to me. If you go to your local engineering company and be like, would anyone be willing to sit down with me for 10 minutes and just talk about their job? You'll have so many offers. Everyone will want to do that because we are passionate about what we do. So go and talk to people, go and ask people, like, how did you get into this? What did you do? What would you recommend? And each of our experiences of your own. So I've talked about kind of my experience here, Georgina.
Mm.
But if someone came up to me and went like, I'm coming from a different background with a different context, I might go, oh, do you know what? I might not be the best person to talk to, but I know 3 or 4 people who are like,
Mm.
and we are passionate about subjects. So just go and talk to people. Just go and ask questions, because that's kind of the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Especially in education. I don't think people go into education because they want to gatehold information. They're definitely willing to answer your questions. I can ask them. I love it. So I feel like this is probably a stupid question, but I usually ask people what was your favorite subject at school, but I feel like you may have told us.
So I've spoke about maths. I also loved drama. Like
Yeah.
I've mentioned it. I absolutely loved drama. It was like I love the study of maths, but I think just doing drama I really enjoyed, and maybe not necessarily directly linked to your kind of STEM idea, Georgina, but that was a real kind of passion of mine.
Mm.
And they were the two that always kind of stand out. And I always loved history. I've always enjoyed history.
Mm.
I chose to do it for A level, and then I dropped it very early on
Mm.
because of my A level history teacher. Just there was quite a few of us who quit it instantly. That will be my story.
Okay.
So thank you to that teacher. But since kind of coming away, I love history, and I do a lot of kind of reading and kind of learning about it. So that 3 quite disparate subjects, but all of them kind of relate to just doing new stuff
Mm.
and kind of just the love of learning. I would have always come back to, Georgina.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It sounds like even through those, so as you were describing the value of having an education in maths, it was about being able to connect with other people, and those come from drama and history as well. Because history, whilst it might be talking about things that happened centuries before we were even alive, it repeats itself, so it's still relevant today. And if we paid more attention to what happened in history, we might make better choices now. This is probably the worst day for us to be talking
I was gonna say
about.
Ray Perston, 6th of the 11th, 2024. Note that date, people.
Maybe people would make better choices if they studied history more in depth. And yeah, the same for drama. Like it. I was always told I should study drama at school and never had any interest in doing so. But as an adult, I can see why it would have actually been very beneficial for me because I was such a quiet student, and you just don't have a choice in a drama room. You just have to get involved.
Have to
So
get out there, yeah. And I think the other thing I would say, like going back to maths as kind of a subject I've always really liked, what maths has allowed me to do, and I'm not talking kind of professionally here, what maths has kind of allowed me to do personally is like it's allowed me to go and work internationally because of what I spoke about with kind of maths being that universal language and being able to go and teach another subject, different areas of the world. That's so true for so much of STEM. Like if you've got this science, like tech, like engineering, maths background, as I said, there's nowhere in the world you're going to go to and they're like, oh, we don't need any technology or engineering here. Like, we don't need that here. Like, it opens so many doors for you to go and do something that you're really kind of like, you can just go and explore these STEM subjects, which is maybe not true for some, like, if you study something that's really kind of culturally contextual, that might not be so true. But I think maths is like so non-contextual sometimes
mm,
that you can go anywhere, like especially as an engineer, like engineers just solving problems.
yeah.
There's always problems to be solved. And I think that's something I would get your listeners to really think about kind of with STEM is it is a brilliant passport. It's a brilliant thing to have in your passport on your CV to go in anywhere. And I think that's a really that's another thing I would think about kind of going back to your kind of GCSE A level decisions. It's not about like opening doors as it is much about not shutting doors. So
Yeah,
keep your options open and go and explore with them.
perfect. Thanks very much. And my favorite question, did you ever have a tutor when you were studying?
No,
Never had a tutor.
not a child. It wouldn't even been considered. It wouldn't even been considered for a split second. Um, I don't. I didn't know anyone who had a tutor. I didn't know any tutors. I wouldn't have even consider. I wouldn't ask one because I wouldn't even thought about it as a thing. I went to a very bog standard state school, Georgina. Like, I'd be amazed if anyone had tutoring at that school. Just like wasn't mentioned, wasn't talked about. No, so absolutely not.
Yeah. It's completely different now. There was even a phase where tutoring started to get more popular, but no one would talk about it. They'd be like, don't speak to anyone about what we're doing, and don't contact the school. Don't ask the teacher for any help. I don't want anyone to know that we have a tutor. Well, it's not. What do you think this is? This isn't shameful. Like, we're helping you learn. That's brilliant. It's completely different attitudes. It's
Yeah, it's a weird stepping on toes kind of scenario. As someone who's been a teacher and being like, someone's come to me with their tutoring work, and me being like, "Why have you brought Miss? I'm your teacher, not your tutor." I think I may have said that line like a
yeah.
decade ago.
What is this nonsense? Who are these hooligans?
Who are these
Yeah.
people?
I can understand it. Like teachers work exceptionally hard, and then somebody else is sitting in this kid's kitchen getting cups of tea and doing a much easier job with them. No.
Yeah, no, teachers are awesome. We need you. We need you and we need more.
Yes. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Arthur. So, I mean, you shared a lot of things, and initially you were sharing about the various ways that you support students and tutors and maths fans. Where can people get in touch with you?
So if you're a student listening to this, getting ready for your GCSEs, I've got a couple of free courses. So if you just go to www.moreedu, that's MOOREEDU.co.uk, then you'll find more about me and you can go on to some of my courses. And I've got GCSE courses that are completely free for you. Some about calculated skills, but more just about how you can tackle the exam, kind of what I spoke about, kind of just seeing maths as some problems. So if you're a student, please go and look at that. I've also got recommendations where you can go and do your own independent study. If you're in the world of tutoring and you kind of want to find out more, again, go to me on there or find me on LinkedIn. It's probably the nice place to find me. Just search Arthur Moore Tutor and hopefully I'll come up. And I've got loads of stuff for tutors, from completely free WhatsApp group to paid kind of pedagogical support. And if you're a parent thinking about maths tuition, come and find me, www.moreedu.co.uk, and you'll find me and we can talk about kind of supporting everyone. But I would also stress, if you're just someone who is interested in education, find me, we have a conversation. I like talking about education, Georgina, as I know you well know, because we've had many a chat.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Arthur. So yeah, definitely recommend getting in touch with Arthur. I've not experienced the maths tuition, but I have experienced the tutor support and I definitely would recommend it. So I'm sure the maths tuition is equally good.
Oh, it's excellent. And after you've listened to this podcast, which is absolutely awesome, go and listen to the rest of the series. If you've still got some more podcasts, I run 2 educational podcasts. One is called T and Teaching, the letter T and Teaching, which is where I talk with educators from across the world. And then I've also got my tutoring podcast, Tutoring Tips, where top tutors share a top tip in under 2 minutes. And Georgina is one of those tutors. So you can go and listen to her top tip, which is still one of my favorite about autonomy in tuition.
Oh, lovely. Perfect. Thank you very much, Arthur. Lovely speaking to you today.
Pleasure as always, Georgina. Yeah, go and do some STEM, people. Go do some STEM.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Hi, I'm your podcast host, Georgina Green, and the founder of Green Tutors, STEM Specialist Tuition Company. We've been supporting students with their GCSE and A-level maths, science and STEM subject studies since 2011, and our team all work and have a passion for STEM professions such as engineering and chemical synthesis and medicines and all sorts of fantastic things in the world of STEM beyond the curriculum, which is what we bring into our lessons to make them more exciting, and the reason I wanted to share this podcast with you all. Alongside that, we've launched the STEM Educators Academy, where other STEM professionals and STEM education enthusiasts can come and learn about how to grow their STEM education practices together. If you're interested in any of the support that we offer, get in touch at greentutors.uk and you can access some of the free resources on there as well.
This podcast would not exist without the sponsorship of STEMazing. I'm very grateful to STEMazing, not only for sponsoring our podcast, but for the brilliant work that they're doing, fostering inspiration and inclusion in STEM. I recommend having a look at their website, stemazing.co.uk, which is what you can see right now, to see a bit more about the work that they do. Alongside the award-winning Inspiration Academy, bringing events into primary schools and inspiring young people to see their future in STEM, because you can't be what you can't see. There's a fantastic membership, which I'm a part of, for women in STEM to do more of this, fostering inspiration and inclusion in STEM, with monthly content shared on empowerment, inspiration, and community. Will help you to be a better role model and mentor to people in STEM. And finally, there's a brilliant library here of role models in STEM that you can go and have a look at and hear more about their STEM stories. Here's a shout out for our sponsor, Navigated Tutor. If you haven't seen this, I recommend having a look if you're in education. The Navigated Tutor platform gives access to a quarterly webinar and magazine and training resources. The first one I've already read and attended, and in minutes learned lots that's going to make a massive impact on the way that I support my students. This is brought to you by Arthur Moore, who is not only a fantastic tutor but also the host of the Tea and Teaching podcast and Tutoring Tips podcast, 2 of my most listened podcasts. So I recommend that you go and check those out if you're working in education at all, and sign yourself up to the Navigated Tutor platform for some fantastic CPD. You can get access to this at mooreedu.thinkific.com. That's mooreedu.thinkific.com.